Hello, everybody. Welcome live to the first corporate innovation boxing match that I have personally ever witnessed. And I'm super excited that I get to host this show. I'll give you a tiny little bit of a background. There is a history between these two gentlemen, which I will get into in a moment. I think we spoke at some corporate innovation summit. We all met at Imperial College and we had very heated debates. And I'm absolutely excited that we're going to basically hear at this boxing match. And the way it will work is we will talk about 3 questions. And then you, the public, gets to vote on Mentee. And don't worry about, we'll walk you through the code. You'll have to open Mentee in a separate tab. But just a little background, I met Dan many years ago. I dabble in corporate innovation, and I've had the pleasure of working with Dan when I ran accelerator programs. You can question my taste. I tend to have a lot of books on corporate innovation on my nightstand. This is something I'm very excited about. But let me first introduce these two gentlemen. So Dan Toma, many of you know him. He's a very well-known author of the Corporate Startup book. I think it's a must read. We'll talk about that later, Alex. I think it is. So obviously next to the book that he authored, he's currently authoring a book on innovation accounting, which is something I'm quite passionate about, but I'm sure we'll hear more about it. But basically the interesting thing about Dan is that he's an engineer and he's never really had a proper job until he's 29. He's only worked in and with startups, which is super great. And then his first proper job was short-lived as he went out and founded a consulting agency. So one of the things that he is well known for is he was featured as the Thinkers 50 2020 radar list of management thinkers to watch. And then also what's really interesting is that he spent most of his time in digital transformation. And this is how he bumped into Alex. So the project that Dan had at the time was working with the largest bank in Norway, with DNB. That's how the whole fight with Alex started. So let me get to Alex. Alex Haneng is Senior Vice President of Digital Innovation at Norway Post. It's a 2.5 billion Nordics logistics company. The 400-year-old company was voted Norway's most innovative company in 2019. He's a popular international keynote speaker and a guest lecturer at MIT and at the Norwegian School of Economics. Before Poston, he worked 10 years in different startups, followed by 10 years as a consultant. He's also co-founder of the Digital Bar, which is an independent networking event in Oslo. He's also famous for wearing funny shoes. So I'm sure he has a huge collection of sneakers. See, okay, it's Corona, I'm wearing slippers. But nicely done, Alex. Okay. So anyway, the interesting story is that when Dan worked at DNB, he basically helped the company go from 6th place in innovation to 2nd place. And then between Poston and DNB, you guys have battled out who's the most innovative company, basically. So the way we would like to start now is I'm going to start posing the first question, and then we'll go to voting. So the first question I would like you guys to battle it out on is, what is the purpose of corporate innovation anyhow?
Alex, do you start?
I gentlemen. There's 2 factors to corporate innovation that are the big purpose. Let's start with what it's not. It's not about short-term profits. What it is about, first and foremost, is long-term survivability of the corporation. So the problem with a lot of companies is that they're dominant in their industry for a while, and then certainly things change, and they don't manage to pivot into something new. So one example of that is Kodak, right? So Kodak was a massive company, hugely successful, but they didn't manage to transition into the digital photography or into any other business. So the first job and first purpose of corporate innovation is to survive, make the company survive. The second purpose, and this is as important as the first one, but the first one needs to come first, is to build the right digital capabilities or innovation capabilities in the company. So what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, it has to be corporate buy-in. You need to have corporate executives on board to actually focus on this and be aware that we need to pivot at a certain point when market changes, and we need to explore new possibilities. The second is about building a digital platform. It doesn't matter if you see the possibility coming and you have such a slow IT infrastructure that you can't jump on that possibility. And the third is building a learning organization. So those two things, those capabilities are so important to be able to take that knowledge or that new product or innovation you come up with to actually make it and scale it. So in the example of Kodak, they were good at doing exploration. Like they invented the digital camera. They invented it, but they didn't manage to pivot and have those capabilities to actually take that into to a business. So those are the two purposes, I say, of corporate innovation.
I would challenge the first one, if I may.
Of course.
I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of survivability. I'm just saying that that's probably a byproduct of the main goal of innovation. So actually, I would want to take one step back and look at what's the purpose of a company nowadays, right? Given the pandemic, given the changes in society, given the new trends, social, economic, and so on and so forth. And to do that, again, I'm trying to reference everything that I'm saying here. If you go and look at the World Economic Forum, they've signed a memorandum, I think, in 2020 at the Davos Convention. I think it was last year, or was it 2019 one? I can't remember that. But anyways, if you look at the World Economic Forum memorandum on what is a company, they created a definition that goes along the lines of creating value for the stakeholders, shareholders, and the society at large. So if that is the purpose of the company, the way I view innovation is essentially a tool in the toolbox of the company alongside so many other tools. And if it's a tool in the toolbox, then that tool should deliver on the promise of the company, meaning drive value for the shareholders and drive value for the society at large. This value can be monetary if we're talking about for-profit organizations, where it can be non-monetary if we're talking about for good or nonprofits or even government organizations. So survivability, I think it kind of like is baked into that particular like goal and survive and profitability, right? You won't be profitable if you don't survive, kind of thing. However, I disagree with the idea of innovation is there to build capability. I think that you need to have capability in order to do innovation, not the other way around. And it's very interesting if you look at organizations that are ranked and being regarded as very innovative. There's some McKinsey research showing that usually they outperform the average of the market by 25%. So it's actually a huge return on the shares that you have as an investor if you buy stocks in an organization that is innovative versus an organization that's not innovative. Also, I did some very interesting, let's say, thought experiment over the past couple of days. I looked at R&D expenditure. This is just a proxy for innovation. I will never suggest that R&D expenditure is a measure for innovation. But consider this. Consider that Roche, the big pharma company, has an annual budget of $9.8 billion for R&D. If you consider the average customer acquisition cost in the pharma industry, that's usually about $100. So if they just take the R&D budget and place it into marketing, they should generate about 90 million new customers. So obviously, just using innovation to, let's say, fresh wash your company is not the way forward. And again, I disagree with the idea of capability. I agree that capability is needed, but it's not the purpose of innovation to build that capability. I think that capability should be part of the organizational design, should be part of your ecosystem design, should be conversations that the board has, but don't expect the poor people in innovation to do the design in order for innovation to help with capability. That will be my long answer.
Alex, do you want to rebuttal? Is there anything you want to say?
Of course, and I also see in the comments. So people, please like this on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and comment. I saw a comment that my sound was a little bit bad, so I adjusted the microphone. So hopefully that's fixed. If not, let me know. So the thing Dan is saying is that the corporation should already have the capabilities to do innovation. So they have the right learning organization, should have the right digital tools, right buy-in from management. The problem with any successful corporation when it gets big is it gets optimized for what it does now. So let's say we have a company making fax machines in the 90s, right? So the organization is all about building fax machines efficiently as possible, sell them at the best possible price, do the best marketing. And then some guy sees that, oh, fax machines is not the future. And the problem to a lot of corporations is actually adjusting to that new reality. So what I'm saying is that corporate innovation department, or however you like to organize it, is about turning the company and making sure you have the capabilities to do the innovation for the future, for the corporate whole organization to adjust to what we're going to pivot into. And that's really necessary, or else you're going to be optimized for what's important today and how it works today.
My view is that that's exactly the description, the role description of somebody in HR. So I usually say that companies that don't have an HR person sitting on the board, they don't have any room for growth or any chance of growing beyond their core in the future. Why? Because essentially you can come up with the best innovation strategy, best projects, best everything around the board. You all decide, and then if you roll it out and say somebody needs to implement it, and you implement it with the same old people doing, let's say you're an insurance company, you're just having insurance people working there, they won't be able to think of business model beyond a paper that's signed by somebody and they pay monthly. Like they won't have that like mental framework. So I think it's very important that somebody in HR sits on board and is recruiting, training, and developing the people that are going to be ultimately responsible for the deployment of the strategy. If that's not what's happening in an organization, I don't think that the organization has even the right to survive, let alone the ability. However, I don't see a lot of companies doing that. On one hand, I'm getting a lot of love from people in HR in general when I say that. I don't come from HR, as Tanya said, my background is in engineering. Usually engineers are well represented on board. But again, the innovation people should look at how do they build the stuff and how can they contribute to the overall goals of the organization, and work together with HR to hire and train and develop the resources needed to implement that strategy. That's my that would be my take, I would say. Tanya, do you have any comments?
I do. Actually, we have two interesting comments from Tor. Tor basically wrote that the purpose of innovations for firms and societies to contribute to customers and citizens' individual well-being, and through increased productivity and the extra revenues generated, invest in new services, firms, and jobs. We basically have about another minute left, so we'll see into which camp this plays to. But I'd also like to mention Nicholas, because Nicholas wrote, innovation capability is really a topic as you can innovate on your innovation organization, incorporating the constant flow of innovation approaches, its continuous transformation. What do you guys think?
Well, to answer what Dan said about HR, I totally agree with the thing that HR is an important part of building the innovation capabilities of a company and making that learning organization to help with hiring and upskilling workers and employees. So definitely part of that, as well as IT and business. So I mean, it's not that you can have one unit working in an organization that can do everything, but it's so important that one, usually a top executive, or at least a top executive with a team around him, has that focus, because it's so different from the day-to-day firefighting, winning sales contracts, doing marketing, to think about the long-term strategy, the long-term innovation, and where the long-term survivability. And to the point of Dan about a company having other purposes in addition to making money, I totally agree with that. The triple bottom line is very important and going to be more important going forward. but it doesn't help if the company doesn't survive. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter how much Kodak is giving to charity when Kodak doesn't exist anymore. So it's all about survivability.
Well, since we're running out of time for the first 10 minutes on this debate, I think it would be time to ask our judges to vote. Who do you think is right? Who made the better point on this particular question on corporate innovation? So again, a little reminder, please open Menti in a second tab, and you can see the code right here. It's 32035732. And I'd love for you guys to vote. Basically, who won this round? Was it Dan or was it Alex?
I can see we have 94 people watching us live now, Tanya. So
okay, cool.
Oh, got first point.
Oh my! Oh, not so fast.
Come on! Oh, come on! Please. Oh, you're crushing me, Dan. You're crushing me.
Oh, see, they're both right. No contest, says Emma. That's kind of a good point. I agree with Emma.
And people seem to like my red blazer more than your suit. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm the blue camp. You're the red one. So even though Boston is supposed to be red, I didn't have a red blazer.
Oh, you're.
But I do have 3D printed shoes though. So hopefully that counts for some innovation points.
Oh, you should leave us a comment where you got it from.
Oh, that's a secret. No, you can buy them at Adidas. Actually, it's quite kind of cool because it's the first, for me at least, the first mass-produced product that's 3D printed that you can buy in the store. I think it's pretty cool.
So we're getting a lot more comments from Emma and Dennis, and I just want to invite our listeners. There will be at least 10, 15 minutes at the end of this for more questions. So I would love to keep you in mind and basically pose those after we've done the next two rounds. So it looks at the moment, actually, it's pretty clear. Dan, you won this round.
I take this one.
Congratulations.
Sorry, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, there's two more rounds, Dan. There's two more rounds.
Don't worry.
All right, gentlemen. So here's one of my favorite topics. Who is better at innovation? Startups or corporates?
So I'm giving this a Dan since you let me start the last one.
Thank you very much. Is this even a question? Is this like part of a debate? Let's put it this way, right? Before I take out the wrecking ball or the baseball bat and I start bashing away at corporate innovation, I want to give a bit of a context to why I'm going to start bashing at corporate innovation. I would say that in most organizations there is a big confusion between innovation and digital transformation. Seriously, I would encourage everybody that's listening, go to your board, hand everybody a Post-it note, ask them to define innovation. If you have 9 people on the board, you're probably going to find about 7 definitions of innovation. And they're not going to be like anywhere similar or just nuance or synonyms. No, totally different. The thing is that a lot of people confuse innovation for digital transformation, and that's very dangerous in the context of survivability, in the context of profit that we've talked about. If you want to have an accountant's perspective, and I'm not an accountant, in general, you can think of innovation as doing top-line growth and digital transformation doing bottom-line growth. Now, talking about who's good, I would definitely say startups win. And the data that I'm using to prove that is, on one hand, look at the CVC market, look at the corporate venture capital market, look at the investments organizations, large organizations doing startups. From 2019 to 2020, that amount increased globally by 48%. Now, why is that? That can be rooted, hypothesis, right, in the fact that organizations were now under pressure with COVID to start delivering on the innovation promise, on growth, on beyond core stuff, and they realized they can't do it internally. They went out and bought stuff. You can say, yes, okay, that was COVID, right? But if you look at the trends from 2016 to 2020, you're going to see only increase. In 2016, the global amount that was spent on CVC was 32 billion. In 2020, it was 78. So it just doubled in 4 years, right? Even a strategic plan has 5 years, and this just doubled in 4. That's one. if you look at the distribution of investments in large organizations, there are studies by Innovation Leader, KPMG, and other organizations that usually point to the fact that 48 to 50% of the investments go to core, so incremental improvement, whether only 25% go to transformational initiatives. So, and that the data is quite, I would say, constant over years. So 2016, 18 data, 2020 data, these are all the same. So minor variations, 1-2%. So I would say that that definitely, if we talk about breakthrough innovation, if we talk about radical transformation, startups win it hands down. As much as I would like to see organizations, large organizations do it, in most cases is startups. Yes, there are examples of large organizations able to innovate beyond the core and beat startups at their own game, but those are just the exceptions to the rule.
All right, Alex, I'm going to hear from you, and then I might just pose a few more challenging thoughts.
I'm sorry, Dan. You're a great guy, but you're so wrong on this point. Claim that startup is more innovative than corporates. I'm sorry, Dan. You're a great guy, but you're wrong on this one. So if you look, so my background is 10 years in different startups. Then I did 10 years in different corporates as a consultant. And now I've been 4 years as a 400-year-old corporate head of innovation. So let's look at startups. 90% of startups fail.
Yeah.
So if startups are so innovative and so great at this, how come they can't even survive? I mean, seriously, they can't even survive. So those 10% that's left after those 90% has died off, a tiny fraction of them survive. And you're talking about, and that's a good argument, that there's a lot of money being poured into startups. But the thing is, it doesn't matter. It's just like you talked earlier, it doesn't matter how many patents you have or R&D spending. It's all about getting innovation out to people, to consumers. That's all it's all about. It's not who makes the most or puts the most money in. To compare that, like teenagers talking about sex, and they brag about how many condoms they have in their wallet. It doesn't matter how much money or how many patents you have to actually do it. So let's look back at those startups that actually succeed, and some of them get huge and affect our lives, like Google, Microsoft, Facebook. Of course, they affect our lives in a good way. But there are only very few of them, extremely few. So if you look at all the big corporations that put innovation in our hands every day, compared to those few startups that do the same, that actually survive and do this, you can't compare. Established companies are so more innovative. So let's use a statistic for you. So today, there's 475 unicorns. So unicorn is a startup that has a $1 billion evaluation. So these are 475 active unicorns. So Google, that was founded 20 years ago, was still considered, a unicorn. In the US alone, there's 7,000 companies worth $1 billion. And that's only in the US. The 475 was in the whole world. So, I mean, it's a massive scale difference. The thing is, startups can move faster than established because they don't have all the legacy. But the power of established corporations is that they can utilize their customer base, their brand, their employees, their money, the resources to take that innovation, even though it takes longer. That's my job, that's my team's job, and that's our job to make corporations innovate faster. But once we found that innovation, we can roll out to the whole world so much faster and to so many more customers, affect people's lives so much faster. And that's why I work in a corporate startup and not in a startup anymore.
But then why is it that so many corporates basically copy startup ideas? So I've tried to work with this corporate startup relationship most of my life, and it's so complicated, it's a mess. But what about, why do corporates then have this crazy thinking that we can build these startup ideas ourselves better? So they end up wasting startups' time, and then they basically copycat the shit out of it.
Well, it goes both ways. So if you take some of the most successful startups that we know, Apple and Microsoft, where did Apple get the idea for the Macintosh? Did it develop it themselves as a startup? No, they stole it from Xerox PARC. They saw the mouse, they saw the graphical user interface, they saw the personal computer. And what did Bill Gates do? He did the same thing, and also went to Xerox.
You're confusing R&D with innovation.
Mm-hmm.
No. These are
I will explain it. Go ahead.
Yes. So they developed their own hardware. It's not like they stole the hardware, stole the software from Steve Spark, but they stole the idea of what a computer could be. That big idea, and they turned it into reality. Well, the corporation, I admit, they failed at that part. And that's what the two parts I talked about in the first round is that it's all about making those great innovations and then taking that out into the market. Kodak succeeded at the first, fucked up the second. They're not here anymore. You need to succeed at both.
So I want to challenge one of the things you said, like Xerox Spark and everything. Story is well known, right? I usually make the distinction between R&D and innovation. I have a slide that I'm known for in every corporation. In every corporation I worked with, there is a slide that shows the flow of money. If you have money and you transform it into ideas, that's R&D. That's the job of R&D. R&D is essentially burning cash on generating new ideas. Be it a mouse, being a new, let's say, fabric, be it whatever other new thing. What the other side of the equation does is transforming new ideas back into money. And that's the role of innovators. This is how you can explain, through this equation, you can explain the discrepancy between the top 50 R&D spenders in the world and the top 50 innovative companies in the world. Tesla, for example, and Daimler. Same industry, building cars, everybody knows about them, right? Well, Daimler is in top 10 R&D spenders in the world. Their annual R&D budget is close to 10 billion. I know countries, and I've worked in countries in economic development that don't have that as a GDP. These guys are burning it on R&D. But when it comes to innovation, Daimler is sitting at the bottom of the top 50. Some are like 45, 30, I don't know. Just don't quote me, look it up. Tesla, on the other hand, they don't even show up in the top R&D. Why? Because they just don't do R&D. They acquire stuff. They acquire a lot of startups in Israel. All their self-driving technology is an Israeli startup. And I think Tanya can tell us a lot about R&D in automotive because that's her background. Basically, Tesla is number 3. And talking about Tesla, talking about why startups are better, shocker for everybody hearing us in Germany, Tesla is worth 3.5 times more than the entire German auto industry. So take Daimler, Volkswagen, Porsche, Opel, BMW. Have I forgotten anybody else? No. Okay, this 5. Multiply them by 3.5, and that is Tesla. And that's a 17-year-old company, right? I mean, seriously, Daimler had 17 years to develop that, and 17 years for Daimler is 10% of their history. Come on, you can do better, right? That's my argument. So again, companies should not confuse R&D with innovation. That would be one, and they should not confuse digital transformation with innovation because they're totally different. I'm going to leave it here.
Thanks, Dan. Any more things to say, Alex? Because I think we're basically down to voting again.
Let's do the vote. I disagree with you, Dan. Great. Let's see what the audience thinks.
All right, lovely people. Again, please switch over to Mentimeter and give us who won round 2.
Tanya, we got some questions. We got some questions for people from YouTube that don't see the code, I think. So I'll explain that. So open a browser, go to menti.com, menti.com. Then you enter the code 32035732, and then you can vote who won. So I'll go to menti.com. I'll do this full screen so people probably can see a little bit better. It's on the top here if you see the top. So I guess this is a bit more equal round.
This was a very, right?
Come on, it's more fun if it's 1-1 after the first 2 rounds.
Can the moderator vote? Maybe the moderator should vote.
Yes, you can vote.
Not vote, Tanya.
I know you're going to vote for, but I don't care.
Exactly. I wouldn't allow that. That wouldn't be fair.
And people, if you're watching this or liking this, please like and comment. At the end of Tanya's we're going to do some Q&A.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Riol, thank you for putting the link up, and everybody else helping in the community with the links. They are both right. Great conversation, presenting multiple points of view. Thank you, Emma.
Sorry, it's a comment from Emma.
right. So is this it? Should we give it a couple more seconds? Alex, this is not looking good. Where are your boxing gloves?
Okay. I love that video. I don't know where you came up with that.
Oh boy.
Congrats, Dan. Congrats. But I gotta come back in the last round for a knockout.
Totally. I'm not going to give the last round away.
It's close though. It's close. Give me that.
You started in front on this one. You started in front of this one.
So here's one of my favorite ones. And all the different corporate innovation vehicles that I've tried and built, and eventually you come up with this KPI ROI decision, right? The CFO at some point will come along and say, what am I getting for all of this, right? And then they usually scrap these innovation projects again. So basically, I'm leading to question number 3. Do companies need a measurement framework to manage innovation? Should I basically pose it to Alex first? How do you guys do it? Do you guys measure innovation, and how do you do it?
Well, yes and no. So the question is, do we need a framework for measurements? And the answer is, yeah, you need a little bit. But what absolutely you don't need is a huge framework with lots of KPIs. That's a terrible mistake. And this is probably the one thing me and Dan is the most disagree on. So let's dig into that, since I know Dan is coming out about a book about this. So there's 2 problems with innovation accounting. So you need a little bit just to make the steer right, but there's 2 problems. The first one, and it's counterintuitive. That's the big problem. It's counterintuitive because you think, okay, we want to do more corporate innovation. We should do a lot of measurements that will help us, guide our process. We can tune the KPIs to make sure we get as much innovation as possible. We can do more ideas. We could do more tests. We could do whatever. The more measurements, the better we can tune this engine. And that's what we do with economics and finance, right? So in the corporate finance, we go down and we dig down. We take it from order to profit, and we analyze it. The thing is, that doesn't work for innovation, and there's 2 reasons for that. The first one is that managers get obsessed when they're measured on this, especially if their bonuses depends on this. They are going to over-focus. It works too well to get those KPIs going, to reach those KPI numbers. So, an example. So the bonus of the executive is how many ideas do we test during a time frame. So what is the focus? The focus is test ideas. They don't really care about any ideas actually. Oh, this is the right idea, let's get it up, because that takes away from the testing. So instead of, oh, we found this good thing, put it on the heap, and then keep testing. So it works too well. And the other thing that's a problem is that in big corporations, executives have their existing projects, right? We talked earlier in the 2 earlier rounds about the machine. Like, machine is made for doing what they do now, not for what's coming. So they want to focus on projects, focus on the machine, optimizing them. And then suddenly some guy comes and says, now you're going to be measured on innovation and how many innovative projects you have. So what do you think the manager is going to do? He's going to throw away the big thing engine that he believes in and maybe actually is responsible as well for maintaining the big machine. No, he's going to redefine the project into innovative project, because then he can check off the box, right? So what is an upgrade of your office software package? Well, it's going to make our employees more productive. That's innovative, right? Yeah, well, that's an innovation project. And the worst example of this, I'm going to finish with this example, is Salesforce many years ago. So Salesforce was measured on how many people in Salesforce work with innovation. And you have the R&D or corporate innovation department. That's not too many, because they have a lot of salespeople pushing their software. So what did management do? Well, they thought, we have a lot of salespeople. Well, they go to customer and help customers with their problems, right? They're like business developers. And they help customers being more innovative. So our salespeople are innovation people. And then they redefine all the salespeople as innovative people, and the score shot up. Did that make Salesforce any more innovative? No. Did it reach the KPI? Yes. So that's the problem with innovation accounting. You need a little to steer right, but too much is actually detrimental to your innovation efforts.
Thank you, Alex. I bet Dan is going to disagree here. Dan's got this whole innovation accounting thing lined up.
He's like to tell you something.
I'm not really sure I want to lose this round, right? in the light of the new book, this is the round I need to win. I can give you the other two if I get to win this one, right? I don't think it's going to be good marketing for me if I lose this round. So
I'll battle it for you. I'll battle it with you. That's for sure.
There's a couple of things here. I would agree with the argument that too much is too much, right? We, in general, not just innovation accounting, but system-wise, we need to have a system that's helping the worst players in the organization get better. However, that system should not hinder the performance of the top-performing players. And by top-performing players, I mean people that are born with a drive for innovation. If you create a system, if you put KPIs on people which are like native innovators, you might just push them outside of the organization. However, if you don't have a system, these people will run wild. I always give the example of in football, right? And Barcelona is a good football team. This year, they're not doing very well. That's outside of the conversation, but in general, they are regarded as a good football team. They are a good football team because they have a system which is basically taking young players and making them slightly better, while at the same time allowing superstars like Messi and like all the other stars they had over the years to still perform. Why? Because if you increase the performance of the bottom players, you're essentially increasing the average output of your organization. And you need a system to do that in so many ways, right? In especially organizations which are geographically distributed, culturally different, right? We're not talking about Boston, we're not talking about DMB, which we're pretty much in a sweet spot, right? Small countries, small organizations. We're talking about companies that, for example, Tanya worked with, were organizations like Telefonica in Spain, right? You have people around the world. You need to have a system, especially of measurement, to do that. For the people that watched Moneyball, right, the baseball game and how the guy changed the baseball game and so on and so forth, if you haven't watched it, definitely you should do it. The guy won because of numbers, hands down, right? Now, the other thing I want to mention here, connecting bonus to measurements, right? That's very detrimental in any organization. That's how the US lost the Vietnam War. They connected the success to body count. So people were just killing randomly just to get the body count up. Was that helping with the war effort? Not at all. Same thing, if you connect any type of bonus to performance indicators, and again, I'm highlighting performance indicators, not result indicators, then you have an issue because people will optimize for performance. We need to make the distinction between what is performance and what is result. Result indicators are essentially money in the bank account for most organizations or social impact. And we should connect bonuses and salaries to key result indicators. Number of ideas generated, that's not a result indicator. That's a process indicator, right? We can't have X amount top line growth if we don't generate ideas. The process of generating ideas is essential, but we should not connect bonuses to that particular process. We should connect bonuses to the overall performance of the organization. Now, talking about the need for measurements, there was a Gartner report that came out in 2019 on the blockers for organizations, US organization that was, to adopt and do innovation. The number one blocker for an executive to commit to growing for innovation was their inability to measure it. So I think that if we solve innovation accounting, we're going to have more organizations that are going to go to innovation. And that's how, Alex, you're going to win round 2. Through innovation accounting, large organizations aren't going to get better at innovation. And if we do the battle again in 1 year or in 2 years, you will probably win round 2. That will be my first reaction to this. Tanya, Alex, any comments from the audience?
Yeah, Alex, do you want to pop up what Esther wrote, since you're the master of disaster here?
I'm just going to answer Dan first, because I need to win this round. So people, please like and comment and vote. I need to win at least one round, please. You're crushing me, Dan. So I think it's so important that, you can't, unlike an industry, a factory process, you can't use the same tools for innovation. You're just going to fail. And we've seen failures so many times. When I grew up, one of the most innovative companies in the world was 3M. 3M. They invented the Scotch tape, the tape everybody uses. They have, Scotch light, the reflective material they use. They had so many innovations. Everybody wants to work there. I loved that corporation growing up. And now they don't have any big innovations anymore. What happened? Well, they tried to add Six Sigma, the way you do for Toyota to optimize production of cars, to innovation. They started measuring and measuring and measuring and killed all kinds of innovation. That's, the key of this discussion is innovation art or science? The answer is a bit of both. But if you kill the art, you won't succeed. And they added Six Sigma to all the processes. They measured everyone to death, and they just killed innovation. There's haven't been a single huge innovation from this company the last 10 years. And it's so sad to see. And I see many companies doing this because they're so used to innovation, measuring, not innovation, but measuring financials. And they think they can use just the same for innovation, and it's going to fail 10 out of 10 times.
I would say that we should stop making the confusion between concept and the implementation of the concept and the deployment, right? And I can tell you, like, I need to renew a couple of things in my house, and I'm going to buy all the hardware I can find. Am I a good wall painter? I'm terrible at that, right? So if you equip me with the best tools, I'm still going to fail because my skill. The thing is the same with innovation, right? I can put up all the concepts, and I've seen a lot of organizations applying some of the concepts I put forward in the innovation accounting book, and Esther put forward, and Nintendo I put forward. And I'm sure this is going to happen with innovation accounting, and they're still going to fail. Was it my failure as a concept creator, or was it the failure of the people that implemented? I think that the argument of 3M implemented Six Sigma is not an argument against Six Sigma as much as it is an argument against the leadership in 3M and how they implemented that. And the blame should all be on them, not on Six Sigma. And that should not be on innovation accounting. If you fail with your organization, you probably fail because you didn't implement it right.
The problem is using the wrong tool for the job. So using a screwdriver when you need a hammer, that's the problem. They used a process made to make car factories produce cars faster and try to make that to creative innovation, and that's going to fail. And it's all about us to charge corporations. And we all agree, I think one thing we all agree, the three of us, is that corporations need to be more innovative. Not to make more money, that would be good, of course. It's fun to have money and you can do more stuff with it. But actually, we have some huge problems in the world, and we need these big corporations to be part of the solution. And that's why I'm so passionate about corporate innovation. And I think that the only way we're going to have impact is not with startups, but big corporations being more innovative and having triple bottom lines and really succeeding with this. And they deserve the best tools, and we need to make them choose the right tools for the job and not lead them down the wrong path.
Yes, and that applies in reverse order as well, right? I mean, what we're doing now, we are essentially using the indicators that we use for core projects, for the core business, and applying it to innovation. And look how far this is getting Porsche, for example, or BMW, or Roche, or any other big company, right? I'm not saying that we should scrap all of that and implement innovation accounting, because first of all, you will have a problem with your auditors, right? You will have the IRS in the US shutting you down if you don't report the normal indicators. So it goes both ways. Definitely, tools need to be adapted, and new tools need to be adopted. So I'm not arguing that. However, I believe that the system needs to be, the innovation accounting system needs to be as comprehensive and as detailed as the system that we have for the core business, which is amazingly complex. And again, I'm not an accountant, but if you work with an accountant, try to figure out where you put the bill for your pencil. Is this an asset? Is this depreciating over time? Where does this fit? You're going to be amazed.
Guys, I see so many comments, and we'll get back to that. A good friend here, Jan Kennedy, wrote, I think you guys can see it, did Alex fire Dan because they disagreed so much?
He didn't get the chance to fire me because we didn't work together.
That's two competing companies.
Exactly.
We're going to see next year. Stop.
Yeah. No, but to be clear on that, me and Dan, we agree on a lot of things. And even though it is the book as a pre-match fund for this, I really love the book, and we use that a lot actually to build the innovation team in Boston. So I'm not saying don't look at that, but we're just disagree on some key points. But I think they're important key points, so that's why we're having this discussion.
Yeah, Elizabeth writes, art is science and science is art, but don't measure the hell out of it. But anyway, I think we should give ourselves a little bit more time for Q&A because we have so many wonderful people posing comments and questions. So what do you guys think? Are we ready for voting round 3?
Yes, let's do voting.
Oh my goodness, Alex, I pray for you.
Give me one round, people, one round. You can vote for me as still buy Dan's book, I'm sure.
I'm fine, yeah.
So just to make sure that you guys know what to do, please go back to Menti.
It's menti.com. Use code 3203-5732. That's 3203-5732. And then go vote who won round 3. Oh! Look at that. The first time happened, Dan. I'm ahead of you. Oh, this is so close.
This is close. This is the
closest. Oh, man. Come on. Give me a few more. I'm being crushed here, Dan. Who knew? I guess I always was the underdog in this fight.
Ooh, it's close though.
If Boston is going to be the most innovative company in the world, that's fine.
It's 2029. Come on, we need a deciding.
Well, what happens? What happens if it's an even?
We're going to do another round on a Q&A question again.
I think that would
you
be
want
great.
2 rounds. You want 2 rounds. Okay, I'm handing you this.
Now we're tied.
Now we're tied.
Seriously, God, this is crazy. Okay, wow, I can't declare a winner.
Now there's the one ahead.
You didn't make the graphic for this, did you?
This is so. I need to make a graphic for this now. This is so tied. Oh man,
they're growing together. This is fantastic. Love it.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, gosh, you guys make my job difficult.
Esther, vote, Esther.
Oh man, this is so close. It's exciting.
This is.
Come on. Oh, there you go. Went ahead. For it.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it was so close. I mean.
No, that's exciting. 40. Yep. You won this one.
I think it was too close to judge, to be honest.
Oh gosh. Well, do I have to announce a winner now? I think I do.
It's time to announce a winner.
Oh, Dan.
Thank you.
Alex.
I love it. I love it.
Congratulations, Dan. You won fair and square 3 rounds. I mean, I have to give it to you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I have to now. I have to ship you a bottle of champagne or something.
Actually,
thanks,
have to get you
Alex, for everything
belts.
you do. That was fantastic. Question to you both, because all 3 of us can see the chats. Are there particular questions you would like to answer, Alex, because you can pop them up? There's a number of interesting things. I think one of the most interesting questions from earlier is, how do you make the difference between innovation and digital transformation, and that being different in general from all kinds of innovation, right? Should we grab that one back up?
Yeah. Do you have a name? I can get it up on the screen.
It was a lady, I think, that asked
it was pretty early. Hang on. Here, Juan Gabriel Bernal. Dan, could you explain a bit more about how you see the difference between innovation and digital transformation?
Right. So keeping it short, because I want to hear Alex's opinion and Tanya as well. My distinction is purely looking at finance for that particular idea. If that idea would look at the idea in front of you and think of yourself, hey, if this idea is going to be successful in the market in 1 year, is this going to contribute to bottom line or top line growth? Bottom line meaning, are we digitizing and making an existing product more efficient, or are we building a new product that's going to generate revenue on top of an existing offering? That will be my simple definition. Again, you can read, there's a lot of literature out there. I usually take this shortcut. I look at where will the impact be. Is it going to be new revenue being generated on top of the existing one, or is it going to be making efficient a product that you already offer? So take, for example, the credit line in a bank. If everybody used to go to the bank to sign paper for a credit, for a mortgage, if you're doing it online in an app with an AI bot, that's digital transformation. Why? Because you're not going to create any top line growth. You're most likely going to sell the same amount of mortgages as you did last year. Is it going to be more efficient? 100%. Is it going to make you look better and digital and yada, yada, yada? 100%. But is this making you generate more revenue? Most likely not. However, if you would do any other add-on services to mortgage, that will probably be innovation. Let's say you are offering I don't know, like IoT solutions, and you are a bank, or I can't come up with innovative ideas in mortgage banking, although I've spent 2 years with the bank, so I should be better at this. But if anybody in DMB is here hearing us out, they can come up with innovative ideas in banking. So that will be my distinction, keeping it short.
I can comment on that. It's about definitions, though. What you define as digital transformation, what you define as innovation. But I think it's intertwined. So we're going now, it's different. So MIT calls this digital versus digitized. The digitized is like taking that form and making it a PDF and publish it on your website, right? That's digitized. So you take something that's physical and make it digital without changing it much. And then you have digital, which is, the new offerings. So instead of having that form, maybe you can pre-fill it based on looking up in different sources, machine learning, and you just get an offer. So that's digital. But the thing is, this huge transformation that we see across all companies, across society, which I call digitalization, it actually changes a lot. So it's not all about the corporation as we are now. It's going to be disrupted, even though we do nothing. And being digitized is better than not doing nothing. But the big thing is the huge opportunity that come with digitalization that gives you huge new markets. You can go into markets you've never been before because it was geographically possible. It could be getting additional services. It could be going deeper and solving the problems of being part of the solution. It can be, giving a better solution. So I think this is a super important question, but it's really easy to get stuck on wording and how you define words. But core concept is that there's so much possibility now that we can take advantage of.
I think you should start to your question on, I think you should start in your company by creating a very clear definition of innovation, a very clear definition of digital transformation before you start doing any transformation or any new project. Because essentially you can use different tools for digital transformation than you can for innovation. If you're going to use Lean Startup for digital transformation, that's basically shooting yourself in the leg. You don't need to do all the experimenting, all the stuff that comes with the Lean Startup methodology for digitizing the credit card experience. However, if people will stop taking credit tomorrow, you probably need to look at innovation, because your entire let's say core might die if people stop taking credit tomorrow. I think there is a very good question somebody posted up. I want to bring that up because it was very interesting here, from Joachim. How many established corporations do you think would survive on revenue of their innovation program or efforts alone? And I think this is tied to digital transformation, if we want to discuss that. If not, we can continue bashing away at digital transformation versus innovation.
No, go ahead.
For it.
I liked it because I think that the conversation should not be we either do innovation or we do digital transformation. we either do core business or we do innovation. I don't think that's the question. That if you're in an organization that thinks like that, you should probably look for another job somewhere else, because that organization won't go very far. We should measure innovation. We should look at the contribution that innovation has. For example, the multiple index of the ideas that are innovative versus the core business, right? We have a multiple of usually 1.15 on core business, or 1.3 if we're lucky. Innovation can actually give us a multiple of 5, 10, or even more. Can they survive on innovation alone? Most likely not. Is that the problem of how we do innovation? Yes, it can. It be a problem of how we do innovation. Again, let's not confuse the concept with the way it's being implemented. And again, we should never discuss black or white. Companies need both.
Can we finish off with one question here, Tanya?
Yeah, that's the one. I was just going to pop that one up. I wasn't sure if you wanted to rebuttal to Dan, but that's one of my favorite ones. Thank you for bringing it up.
I think that would be good. We're going to close.
It's a nice closing. Mm-hmm.
So did I learn anything about the corporate innovation in the past year? And I would say the big thing that I learned last year is the importance of having innovation capabilities, or having corporate capabilities, and how important that is to innovation. So what happened in Norway, where we are our home base, is that during the first lockdown, a lot of people were not able to go to the grocery store because they were, in quarantine, or they might be in a especially vulnerable demographic. And in a few big cities, you had grocery delivery, so maybe 20–30% of the population could actually order groceries and have them delivered, but the rest of the country did not. So the top CEO from Posten, where I work, and the top CEO from Coop, which is one of the biggest grocery chains, they went together and said, we need to solve this. Just do it. So they went to both their organizations and said, we're going to solve this as fast as possible. So what happened was that we looked at our network of mailmen and see how can we use the mailmen to deliver groceries. And Coop, they looked at how can we take our products, because they didn't have an online store at that point. How can we take our products and make them online? And how can we combine these two things? Like, they have the grocery stores all across Norway, get the products online. How can they pick and pack the orders? And how can we, as Posten with their mailmen, actually get the orders and get them out to the public? And with 5 weeks, we managed to build this with 90% coverage. And as a lot of you know, Norway is a really long and geographically spread out, the population spread out. But what's the big takeaway for me is, one, we could do really big innovation fast as long as top management decides this, we're going to do this. But secondly, is we couldn't do this if we didn't have the network of mailmen. If Coop didn't have the network of stores, those are capabilities. But also we invested in a digital platform called Glow, which controls our drivers. If we didn't have that in place, we said we can make that, it could be done in a year from now, we wouldn't be able to do that fast innovation. And the same thing with Coop, we were lucky enough that Coop had just recently got all the product information in one database, so it could easily be exported and made into a store. So that's the thing, is that these capabilities that we invest in, might see them as innovation, and they might not seem as important for innovation, but things to be able to react quickly to possibilities. And this was a pandemic. It could just be a competitor coming in, it could be a new market that we saw. To be able to do that, you need to have those capabilities in place.
Absolutely. Dan?
I think that over the past year, it's a very, very good question, by the way, well selected and well phrased. I was very romantic about innovation a year ago, or maybe 1.5 years ago. I became very cynical and very more pragmatic about innovation in the past year. Why? Because I've seen the need to a big problem, and that was the pandemic. And the example Alex gave was a very good example of how innovation can help tackle a social issue with massive repercussions, right, on people's health, on well-being of the society, on the country, even national security, right? And this is why I think over the year, with the Corona thing, I become way more pragmatic about innovation. And now I have no problem sanctioning organizations that are just doing it for the theater, for the lab, for the colored bean bags. I actually try to stay away from working with those organizations. I've refused a lot of work that has to do with, oh, we have a lab, we just want to, do some capability development in the lab. No, thank you. That won't get you anywhere. You won't solve big issues. Stop bringing money. I think one of the people that I met along the way, writing the corporate book, The Innovation Accounting, was a lady in. I can actually name her. She's the global chief technology officer of DuPont in the U.S. Alexa Debek. I might have pronounced her family name wrong, but check her out. She's very pragmatic, and in the conversations I had with her when we were interviewing her for the book, she was very influential on our thinking on, hey, if it doesn't contribute to growth, we're going to kill it in DuPont. And that's when I think I realized that, hey, actually, she's right, being so pragmatic and so cold-blooded, if you want, when it comes to assessing innovation. I think that's what I've learned over the year, because now we're no longer doing innovation because it's fun, because it's a poster, because it's fun to have the bean bags and the accelerators and the YouTube channels and all of that stuff. Now we need to do innovation for a real deal. There's a lot of companies that in Germany, for example, they reached out to us over the past couple of months trying to assess what money went in for the past 5 years and try to get our advice on what should be killed as a vehicle and what should be killed as an idea, because they just realized they burnt a lot with no results. So I think I became a bit more pragmatic and way more cynical. Maybe I'm getting old, so who knows?
Can I just say, because we're now about a minute over, I don't know, Alex, if you want to go over for a few more minutes, but if not, I want to say you guys have been amazing. Thank you very much. I think literally there's so many learnings and key takeaways from both of your perspectives. So it was a real pleasure. Next time, hopefully more physical and an actual ring. I wouldn't mind that.
Well, I got my gloves ready. maybe that way I can win. I don't know though.
I really
so much, Tanya.
I think this was really great. I would love to do a rerun, or let's keep this, maybe keep this going. You guys are great. I love it.
Well, I need to rematch, that's for sure.
Totally.
But thank you so much, Tanya, and thank you, Dan, for doing this. It's been so much fun. I hope everyone learned something. Follow Dan, follow Tanya on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. Check out both the corporate startup and what's your accounting book coming out, Dan?
Thank you very much for organizing, very much for accepting, and Tanya, you've been great.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, guys.